All right, guys, welcome back. It's Wolfie's World. I'm your host, Brian. The Max is back. Today's
Yeah,
guest,
let's
Max
go.
Jolliffe. We got the recently crowned Badwater 135 course record holder, champion overall, 2026 edition. Just been stoked to get him on the pod for a long time. And what a way to bring you on the podcast. So, welcome, Max. How's it going this morning?
Thank you. It's going good. I'm recovering well. Things are good. Uh, yeah, I'm just living on cloud nine, it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, big fan of yours. Long time. Been following you kind of ever since your early Satisfies days. I can remember when you hopped in at Tahoe for Broken Arrow on that
Yeah, yeah.
46K. That's kind
OG
of where
OG Norda days. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, that was a motley crew that you went up there and had some fun with. And that's kind of where I wanted to kick it off, man, because when I went back for this, I had to realize, dude, time flies. That was 4 years ago, but at the same time, what a short period of time where you did this Broken Arrow 46K on a whim with some buddies, and then 4 years later, you're now being introduced on a podcast as the Badwater course record holder. So, yeah, talk to me about that race, man. What was it like about the company you had and maybe the atmosphere being up in Tahoe that maybe got deep into your bones that you wanted to do this?
Yeah, we were I forget how it all kind of started because I did a photo shoot for Satisfy. It had to have been late 2019, early 2020, and Adam John, that was when he was first starting at Satisfy, and we kind of became tight, and we're talking through just him working for the brand and me kind of being, I mean, there wasn't even brand ambassadors at that point. Um, I kind of had just done a photo shoot, and they stayed in touch with me and kept sending me gear and stuff like that. But I did this event in LA with Adam John, Adam Talon was there, Genevieve was there, Gordon Clark was there, a bunch of some of the first people that I ever met in the trail space, and they were all talking about oh, we're going to do this ultra race in Tahoe in a couple weeks. Like, you should come, you should sign up. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. Like, I've ran a couple marathons. I'm like, I don't really know too much about ultras or the trail scene, and I was just kind of FOMO'd into it, and ended up going up there, met Logan Williams, stayed with her. I met Molly Seidel and Matt Shapiro during that trip. So it's kind of like a crazy time that I met all of these people that have become so important to me and such a big part of my life. And yeah, ran Broken Arrows, my first ultra race. That was 2022. Yeah, 2022, just
Yep.
about 4 years ago. Um, I did okay. I think I got top 50, and yeah, that was the very start and gave me my first little taste of oh shit, this is a world that I'm really really liking. And yeah, just quickly fell in love, and it was just one race after another, Broken Arrow, Black Canyon, Saddles, and then I started winning, and the rest is kind of history.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we'll definitely get into Badwater listeners, but a lot of things that I wanted to talk with Max before we jump into it. That group of people that you mentioned, man, what a unique and interesting, group of individuals who they don't embrace kind of just the traditional image or identity of
They're
runners, right?
very core people of trail and ultra running. Like, all of those people
100%.
are
That's what I wanted to
so,
get to.
yeah,
Yeah, very core, but also just non-traditional in the sense of everything all encompassing running. It seems like they have a lot of diverse interests, hobbies and skill sets, right? That just make them
yeah,
interesting people to hang around with, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, looking back on it, I trip out that it was so weird that this small, and at the time none of us were really prolific
sure.
people within the space, both of the Adams, they were kind of coming up with their careers just working for brands. And then obviously Molly was super popular, but Matt had just started taking photos. Now he's a super popular photographer in all of the running space. And yeah, it was just crazy. Just what a strange coincidence that we all came together for that, and then especially that being my first intro into trail and ultra. It was just really cool.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what I always preach about on the podcast is that's what I love about this era of running is that like the gate is like there are no gatekeepers as much as maybe sometimes I'll say about it or rant on it or somebody else, but like the hinges have been blown off the doors. Like you can come into running from any background, and express yourself in any unique way. And that's one of the things I was curious about because like we both grew up in Orange County. I'm like probably late 80s, early 90s kid. You were probably mid to late 90s kid. And like that was the heyday era for like skate and surf culture. So like, yeah, how did it shape you kind of growing up in Orange County and like, just the identity, that you embraced as a young teen growing up there?
Yeah, I was just grew up, going to the beach, grew up at the beach, obviously skateboarding as well. It was just a part of my life since I've been surfing and skateboarding since I was like 7, 8 years old. And yeah, this is kind of the mecca or the epicenter of skate and surf. Pretty much all of the big brands are based here. So I grew up just knowing, kids who their parents were founders of surf and skate brands, and I had a really good friend whose dad was a pro skater back in the '80s. He had a couple skateboard companies, and we used to just I used to travel all the time, going to skate contests, going to surf contests, stopping by brand headquarters, just doing all of those things, and I felt like I was just very immersed in it from a young age. And then, after high school and after I ended up getting sober, I got a job for one of the surf brands. So I worked in the surf industry for a long time. The brand I worked for was actually part of the Nike organization. They were, essentially the Nike surf category. So, funny little like pre-intro into like the running world, me just working for Nike and stuff. But yeah, that was my upbringing, and I didn't really have any desire to like take on a traditional career path, being like a not that I was ever going to be a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant, but none of that really appealed to me ever. I loved skateboarding and surfing, so that's just like what I wanted to do. And yeah, I ended up doing that for a long time, worked for that company for about 15 years, and then just as of the beginning of this year went full time as a professional athlete.
Right. No, yeah, I'm glad you communicate it in that way because it's like the way I see you within the running space, like it's undeniable. You have a unique, personality, presentation. It's super authentic, and it's like I think it comes from that culture of like surf and skating, where like it's
Yeah.
super expressive. Like you can't be part of like skate surf culture without expressing yourself, either stylistically and how skate and surf. The brands you choose to affiliate yourself with. Like it's got this whole kind of culture that's baked into identity, and like I just see you naturally now doing that within running.
Yeah. And yeah, that like totally. And I think skating and surfing are two sports where style is very important. And I guess I unknowingly just try to apply that to what I'm doing with running. But as far as like building like a personal brand and like growing myself as, a brand ambassador and a professional athlete, and um I kind of just learned from just seeing it within the surf and skate world, and especially working for a surf brand. Like I saw how everything worked. I was on tons of like campaign photo shoots and um, videos and events, and I just kind of like soaked up everything that was going on around me, and I like just unintentionally applied it to just my own personal brand and how I express myself online. And uh yeah, like the making films and documentaries, and doing collabs, and designing stuff. Like I was a designer for a really long time at the company. Started off just working for the art department, doing events, activations, then moved to doing graphic design, did graphic design for a couple years, and then switched to the cut and sew team and was designing apparel and pants and shirts and all of those things. So I kind of like wore many different hats at the company over the years, and acquired all these useful skills that I can now apply to whatever I'm doing in running. So if that's designing a hat or some sunglasses or a piece of apparel, like that's all stuff that just comes really natural to me. And I really do enjoy doing it. That being like kind of my career, what I was doing before I became a pro athlete. So I still really love doing all of those things. And I don't know if there's a lot of athletes out there who really do any of that. Yeah, especially in the running and trail and ultra space.
Right. Yeah, you'd have to imagine that like outside of testing prototypes for like super shoes, there's probably little other engagement on like the aesthetic side or anything else design wise that's meaningful. But yeah, man, talk to me about those new shades, the frames. I saw those drop on
Yeah.
social media. Been blowing up this morning. So yeah, what was that collab about? And
Yeah,
how
so
fun was that?
that's a piece of eyewear that I designed with Research Studio. I believe the name is going to be called the Apex Max. Um, and yeah, I met Mads Hancock. He's this really rad dude. Lives in New York. When I was out there one trip, me and him linked up, and he was just hooking me up with sunglasses, and I was like, "Yo, dude, I actually had this concept, this idea for." Um, this like super unique lens cut, like a weird organic cut of a lens. And I was like, "Do you know anyone who would like be able to do this? Like, could you do this?" And he was like, "Oh, absolutely. Like, I could totally make those for you." And I'm like, "Dude, that's sick. Like, would you be down to do a collab?" And he was like, "Absolutely, 100%." So, about the last probably 6 months or so, we've been going back and forth, working on prototypes, sampling, design, just doing the whole thing that comes with production. And yeah, I was like, it would be really rad to debut these shades at Badwater. Here, I actually have them right here.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
so yeah, so this is the lens cut. I don't know if you
Okay.
can see super well,
Yep, there you go
but
with the
it's
white background on the wall. I can see it real good.
yeah, it's this like organic lens cut. It's got a little rubber nose plate, and then somewhere in here. Oh, these are samples, so they don't even actually have the pad print with my name on it.
Okay.
But they're sick. Yeah, these are what I wore at Badwater. The lens technology is really amazing. They're like these are lighter colored, so just like a pinkish tint with some reflective on it to protect your eyes from the sun. And first colorway that we're doing is white, so um, really psyched on these. And that was just I had like a sketch that I had sent him from this idea that I had. God, it was probably 5 or 6 years ago where I drew this lens cut. I was like, this would be a really sick. I've never really had seen it done before. Now I've seen some people who have done some kind of unique cuts of lenses. I think the technology has just finally gotten to the point where people are able to do this. But yeah, at the time I was like, this is unique and cool and different, and I've never seen it before. And let's try to make this happen. So yeah, just did a collab with him. They should be dropping within the next couple weeks or month or so. But yeah, that's just like a fun project thing that I was like, hey, let's just do this, you know?
Right. Yeah, well, you're on fire right now. Anything you touch turns to gold. So I'm sure once they are available for public release, those things will be selling
Yeah.
out. So,
We're just
um,
seeding the first sample pairs to just some people online. And yeah, we've started the rollout of all the content and stuff. So they're coming, they're on the way.
yeah. Talk to me about that. Like, I have to imagine, like, because I'm that way too. Like, anything I am involved with, spend as much time doing, like I do running. Like, I want to really go all in on it. Kind of like that impulsive
Mhm.
and addictive personality that's inside of all of
Mhm.
us. And it's like, but doing these collabs, right? Like, it probably keeps it fresh, right? It's something that's maybe outside of the act of running and training that like keeps you motivated, right? Like, how fun is it for you, to work with these creators and brand founders?
I mean, that's the whole reason why I do it. It's
Dude,
like
I love it. Yeah,
I just selfishly want to make something
yeah,
that I want, you know, like, oh, I have this idea. Like I couldn't go do this alone. I couldn't like find factories. I couldn't, hire a designer to design all the technical aspects and call out all the specs for how to manufacture the shades. Like I don't really know that, but I, have great ideas, and visually I know what I want, and I have a vision of what something could be. So yeah, that's the whole reason why I do it. And I still like flexing that muscle of being a designer and being creative and doing creative things. And yeah, the fact that I can kind of blend those worlds of design and running now is just like very gratifying and satisfying, and I really just enjoy doing it.
Right. I mean, so you recently transitioned out of your like full time, corporate gig job, right, to where you can go all in on being a professional runner and working with developing these brands and projects. And so I'd have to imagine like a project like that with the sunglasses wouldn't have been quite as easy to navigate if you were still working full time. So how have
Yeah,
you settled in? Are you finding that like these types of things are keeping you still a balance where you're able to
yeah,
engage?
yeah. I mean, it does start to get tough, especially when I'm training extremely hard, and a lot of my time is taken up with all the training that I have to do getting prepared for a race. So sometimes I feel like I have maybe taken on a little bit too much responsibilities, and I have these obligations with all of the brands that I'm partnered with. And I do get pulled in many different directions a lot of times, which I think that's just been the hardest part of doing what I do now and being, a professional athlete and still trying to do all these, cool creative things and keep my feet moving. It does become a lot, especially when, every single day I got, a lot of training to do. So, I mean, it's not much to complain about, but if I had to say what is the hardest aspect of what I do, it's like just being able to juggle and balance all of those things. And I don't think there's a lot of other athletes that are creating and designing product for different brands, doing collabs, training full time, being a good ambassador to the brands that they work with, going on photo shoots. Like sometimes like it would be so much easier to just all I have to do is focus on training and running these races. But at the same time, I know that is a lot of the value that I add and I bring to my partnerships. And if you want to navigate it and make it and, make a decent living as a pro athlete, especially in the space nowadays, like you do have to, you don't have to, but it is hugely beneficial to do more than just, hey, this is, I just wear the stuff and run the races. And like, I'm making documentaries, I'm putting out content, I'm designing, stuff, I'm giving product feedback for pretty much all of the brands I work with. I'm working on, signature product. It's like all of these things are just added responsibilities, and they do take up time and energy, and it it gets busy sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said something there that I've always been curious about your opinion on. It seems like there's a narrative like within the running space, whether it's professionals or, some of the other media platforms, that there's a pushback against like professional athletes in running, trail running, ultra running specifically, having to do anything or carry any responsibilities or burdens outside
Yeah.
of training and racing well and winning races.
The
But it seems
athlete
like,
influencer debate. Yeah.
yeah, or just, yeah, exactly. But like, it seems painfully obvious, both like from the fan perspective and the participants, like myself in the 95, that like, no, that's where like kind of the rubber meets the road with like valuing,
Hmm.
these men and women who run trail and ultra runners. Like, I'm not necessarily at 44 too, concerned with like results and things like that. Like, want to know the person, want to see their creativity and brand collabs and things like that. And it seems like, the individuals that choose to do that, really resonate with a large group of people and amass a big loyal following. And so, I don't know, like, why do you think there's kind of that narrative there, or that pushback to try and like snuff out any of that belief that they should be doing some
Yeah.
more?
I I don't know. I don't want to speak for
Right.
anyone specifically, but um I just know that my rise within running has, I think a lot of that has been attributed to all these other things that I do other than my running. I don't have the greatest results in the world as far as my resume goes. Like I've won quite a few races, but I've never won UTMB. I've never won Western States. I've never won Black Canyon. Like all of like the kind of the pinnacle super competitive races within our space. So to see, being one of those top level pros and not really having a lot of attention or recognition online, and seeing someone like me come up who's like, hey, who's this guy? Like what has he ever done that's exciting or admirable? Um I see how that could cause like some jealousy, and like I've felt it before. Like that's a natural reaction that human beings have when they see something that they're like, why him and not me? And I think that maybe attributes to some of the shade that's been thrown my way over the years when it comes to just pros not being super welcoming, or elite runners. But for the I do want to say for the most part, everyone's been very cool and nice, and I feel like I have been welcomed. But there is that aspect to it, and just being now, in the modern age of social media and being online, it's like attention is value, and we live, in the economy of eyeballs equals value. And as a brand, it's like if someone's gaining a lot of attention, and they're like, when you sign a contract with these brands, it's like there is an obligation to do something for the brand. Like, how are you adding value? And that's something that I always try to remember with all of my partnerships is like, hey, I need to be adding value to these brands. So, if I'm not winning the most competitive, most popular races in the world, I need to get creative as to how I do that. And yeah, I think maybe it's too much work, or a lot of athletes are unwilling to, but or just, yeah, kind of like all the things that I said, it's just like extra work. But if you are able to present yourself in a cool, unique, and impactful way online, and do all of the media stuff, and add value to brands, if it's giving product feedback or designing product or all of those things, it's like, hey, what are the skills that you have, and how can you harness those things in order to be a better brand partner? And if you're taking money for a brand, you're working for the brand, so you better do some work.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And, just as a voice for the 95, like, yeah, we do appreciate the athletes, who find that balance and find, again, their way to authentically express themselves, whether it's with coaching tips or, collabs with brands or amazing documentaries that inspire, us and the general population who don't identify with runners. And like, that's what I've seen is like the voices that I think are resonating the loudest are, voices like yours, Sally's, Joe Corcione, Cam, and they all have, Nick Bear, obviously, who's a bit outside of, adjacent to running, but has an amazing backyard event. And like what you all seem to have in common is a passion to like share your story, to reach out and connect, with the larger community. And you guys each have a unique background, I think, that lends itself to help, people who are, coming from struggles, and finding their way, and connection into running. And so talk to me about that. I mean, is that something that you always had, or through the platform that you've developed in running, found a passion for, helping others or being a voice for people, like people identifying in you and like finding strength to like overcome things? Like, is that something you're developing?
Yeah, I think kind of both things. I just getting sober and being in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, which I I was very involved for a very long time, and one of the pillar principles of the program is helping others. Like, that's what it's all about. So I kind of, as I became an adult and started to, clean up my life and get my shit together, that was always a foundation of what is really important in life. And yeah, I think I just naturally learned that that was so important, and I always just continued to do it, even as I started on my journey in running. And yeah, but at the same time, it's like as I grow and as I do these things and I make documentaries and I tell stories, I do get the feedback and realize how impactful it is to just be honest and be vulnerable, share your story, inspire others. And honestly, like, that has been the most gratifying thing that I've experienced, like, in life, is just the amount of people that I'm able to inspire, and the messages that I get from people that are like, "Hey, you know, you were you were the main reason why, I ended up getting sober. I've been sober 6 months. I was, 50 pounds overweight. I found running. I started running. I lost the 50 pounds. I'm doing great. Like, just had my first kid." I'm like, all of these, things that I hear from people are like, "Holy shit, like, I really am having an impact on the world," which is like crazy,
Right. That's
Yeah.
incredible. And I mean, it all kind of came from King of Moab. I would say that was kind of like this ignition
Yeah,
point of like when the
that was
story
the
really
biggest
got
launching.
larger.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was just kind of the Moab race, which is how the majority of people online first heard about me or found me or saw me, was when I won that race, and then afterwards working on the film and all of the growth that I experienced after that was definitely the main catalyst and kind of the launching pad for me becoming popular.
Right. I would love to think though that like whether you came back and had that victorious, win, just the quality of the documentary and the way you can
Mm.
tell a story, like whether
Yeah,
you came in second or first, I think you still would have had the same trajectory. I don't think that your
yeah,
success. I don't want the lesson to be like you have to go win a
yeah.
race in order
Yes,
to connect. Right.
obviously winning makes it a better
Sure.
story, and just the way that the race played out, it kind of, if you dissect it, it is the classic hero's journey. It's like there's this
Totally.
challenge, you face the challenge, you have adversity, you overcome the adversity, and then you triumph. Which yeah, I mean, dude, I honestly feel like I just got really lucky that I was reached out to by Tyler Wolter, my filmmaker, who's also making the Badwater film. But yeah, he had just like been following me online, saw that I signed up for the Moab race, and he's like, "Hey, I don't know if anyone's like documenting this for you, but like I'd love to work with you and document your race and make a little film about it." And in the back of my head, in the beginning, I almost kind of just thought that it was going to be like a vlog, like a YouTube style vlog, but it ended up being so much better and such a more uh produced and beautiful film than I ever imagined, that people also just like really resonated with it. And like, dude, I like people tell me all the time, like, hey, I've watched King of Moab like 10, 15 times. Like I watch it before, my races or long training runs to get me hyped up. And I'm like, that's so sick. Like I used to do that with like skate and surf films, like, sit in my room and watch a skate video and then just like get super inspired and hyped and go outside and like just start skating or like go to the skate park. Like that was so important and like core for me growing up, that like, holy shit, I'm able to do that for people now. It's like with running, it's insane.
Yeah. I think the first like 5-minute intro to that video is epic. I don't it sets a high standard for intro to videos for trail.
Yes.
So um
That's
a
just like
hard
that's totally authentically me. Like that was
no,
like just
totally.
another day, yeah, yeah.
So um a hard pivot though before we get into Badwater. This was one of the questions or one of the topics I wanted to riff on you with, but like I'm sure you saw recently that Josh Kerr broke the mile world record, right? Like 3:42:66, right? Sick. It's unfathomable. Can't even comprehend it, even as as good a runners as we are, compared to like the general masses. That's a record that held for like 27 years, right?
Mm.
And the
Yeah.
previous record was 3:43s. But like what's crazy is that it's such a minute improvement. It's like 1 second. You know what I mean? And so it got me thinking that like as impressive as that is, I still think Rachel's Cocodona course record and overall win resonated to a level much bigger than Josh Kerr breaking the world record in the mile. Like, what's your take on that? Do you think that like Rachel's moment like probably inspired and impacted more people's lives than setting the world record in the mile?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely kind of biased because I'm a huge Rachel fan and she's my good friend. So, I did feel like Rachel's performance at Cocodona was like kind of more groundbreaking. And maybe that's just because, she smashed this barrier of not only this course record, but being a woman and being able to beat all of the men. Like it happens in ultra running more so than maybe any other sport other than long distance swimming, which women dominate that sport. I think all of the elite women are faster than the elite men when it comes to like ultra swimming. But yeah, I think it just being I think it was more groundbreaking in like many different aspects than just like shaving a minute or less than a minute off of a mile time. Not taking anything away from Josh Kerr, because like that's incredible and amazing. But I think as a viewer and a fan, or just maybe even being an average person, it's like you, the scale of smashing a course record by an hour or 30 minutes and then beating all the men, like that just on the surface is like, for most people, holy shit, that's crazier than just running fractions of a second faster in a mile, even though that record stood for 20 plus years. So yeah, I think, and maybe that's another reason why, ultra running is just so fascinating and appealing to the average Joe, is because it's like we're doing things that are that seem so superhuman. Like, how can anyone run for 100 miles or 200 miles or 250 miles straight? It just seems like something that's impossible. Whereas, oh, anyone can run a mile. Like, these guys are just doing it super, super fast. I think you almost can't grasp how um the level of difficulty of shaving off 1 second at the highest level of a mile is, rather than um running 250 miles and breaking a course record by, an hour. Like, I think it's just harder for people to comprehend.
Totally. But I think that's the magic recipe that like I want to be encouraging to like people in trail running who have immense talent or, platforms is like don't give away that secret sauce, man. Like own it. Like lean into the absurdity and the brutality of ultra marathoning, because like that's what really resonates with the masses and like brings in more eyeballs to our sport. Like you can't lead with performance and expect to gain their attention. Like they just want to hear the real stories of
Yeah.
like dirt
And
naps and things like that.
And there's always going to be a Jim or a Killian out there that's just like levels above everyone. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, unless you're this, God gifted talent, it's going to be very difficult to rise to the highest level. So another thing that I hope we see is like the growth of ultra running and trail running. It's like, I hope we see a lot of these God given talents that, come traditionally go track or middle distance or marathon, and I hope we see some of these people like almost skip that world entirely and just go straight to trail and ultra. Like,
Right.
I think there's a push to that being happening more often.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Like the only way you can really appreciate like what Josh Kerr did was like when I was explaining it to a buddy of mine that like who's not a runner. And he was like, "What's your?" I was like, "Look, I could probably run a mile in the low fives right now," and he would have lapped me. You know what I mean? And like as impressive as it is to like this coworker that doesn't run, that I could run a like a 5:15, 5:20 mile. Like he had to hear that and then know that this dude would lap me on a mile at that pace. It's just unfathomable. But you have to explain it in like a way that they can even comprehend just how fast that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Sick, dude. All right, man. We put down some good quality conversation there. Let's pivot to Badwater, man. Like that's what we're here for. Pop the cork on the champagne and get going with just how that race went for you. Yeah, but first, like, dude, Badwater 135. We got to even just introduce the race to these people because again, it's just a race that has fallen off of the mantle of something that's celebrated by the sport in large. And I think the sport and the race itself is probably mutually agreed to kind of like, go separate ways for the last decade or so. But it's an incredible race. Like for anybody who didn't know that the history goes back to 1974. I mean, it literally started the same year that Western States lore started. And so it has the same kind of rich history and legacy. It started as kind of just a personal quest from Al Arnold. I mean, it wasn't until 1987 that it was officially organized as a race. But yeah, I mean, it takes place in a crazy, brutal terrain, Death Valley, up to the Whitney. Original course took you all the way up to the summit
I
of
mean,
of
yeah,
Whitney, which is crazy. You went from like
which is
negative 300 sea level to over 14,000 feet.
yeah. So it's the lowest point in the lower 48 to the highest point in the lower 48, which is like just a really cool, inspiring, and iconic route. And Death Valley is one of the most beautiful places in the world for sure.
Yeah, that it's absolutely crazy. So like when did this race, pop into your imagination and like when did you start really considering it as a goal for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, dude, trail running is niche. Ultra running is even more niche, and Badwater is like maybe the nichest race in ultra running. It I never planned on running Badwater. I mean, I think I first found out about it when I discovered who David Goggins was, and like, oh shit, he ran this race in Death Valley. Like, that's crazy. It's 120 degrees, like wild. But I never intended on running it. I never had plans on running it. I just kind of accidentally raced my way into Badwater. So in 2024, I won my first, it wasn't my first 100K, but my first win at the 100K distance. Sean O'Brien 100K, which is here in LA and ended up winning that race. And that race got me a sterling silver ticket into AC 100, another extremely iconic race, classic California race. So last summer in August, I ran AC 100 and I ended up winning AC 100. So that then got me a titanium ticket. And these tickets are just guaranteed entry spots into other races. So I got a titanium ticket into Badwater, and I was like, all right, I guess, since I'm in, I might as well do it. It's fairly difficult to get into Badwater. It's a race they're only allowed 100 spots per year, which is even more exclusive than Western States. But not a ton of people want to, run a road ultra in Death Valley in those conditions. So maybe that's part of the reason why it's kind of fallen into obscurity in the ultra world. But yeah, I was like, this is a crazy, unique challenge, and I have an emotional connection to Death Valley and the Owens Valley and the Eastern Sierra that I was like really excited and hyped to do this race. And I think it plays to a lot of my strengths. Some of my pretty much all of my best performances have been in hot weather. So hot weather races are my bread and butter, especially hot runnable races, which Badwater is the hottest, most runnable ultra race in the entire world. So yeah, I was stoked to get in and be able to kind of play to my strengths and train, honestly, the hardest I've ever trained for any race ever, and then go out there and execute on it.
Yeah, that's crazy that like it was basically, on the parlay of multiple victories that was able to get you into Badwater. And then you happen to just,
Yeah,
happen to say
cool
yes. Like
Jack.
you wanted,
Yeah.
yeah, you wanted to continue, the challenge as you were, acquiring these race victories. So like obviously there's a theme there with like precious metals, race entries. Like does Badwater then unlock some sort of like other mythical
I don't
entry
know.
or no?
I mean, I didn't even know I got a ticket into AC 100, and then I didn't know I got a ticket into Badwater. So maybe there's something out there that Badwater gets me into.
Right,
A platinum ticket into something. I honestly have no idea. I haven't done any research, but
right.
yeah, all of the ticket series are just like a carbon copy of the Western States Golden Ticket system.
Right. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, so obviously, I know you're, quite the student of the sport and like you love like the preparation and tinkering and solving the puzzle. Like obviously you've ran, Cocodona multi-day races now. How difficult was it for you to pivot into a race that was this runnable, and with this much heat adversity? How fun was it of a challenge for you to start strategizing?
Yeah, it honestly was a simple transition. I mean, I I've trained for a really long time. I've been really consistent for a bunch of years. I built this huge base and this huge engine. So in June, I ended up getting connected with Jack Kenzel and hired him as a coach. Just coming off Cocodona and having a really disappointing uh, end to my race. I was just like, dude, I'm sick of having races not go my way. Like I need some direction and some guidance, especially from someone who's very smart and experienced within the running space. So started working with Jack. We didn't have a whole lot of time to get prepared for Badwater. I mean, my training block was only 2 months. Not to say that I didn't already do a shit ton of training going into it. But yeah, it was super easy and simple for me to just like I just did exactly what Jack said. And he brilliantly programmed my training block, and we got right to it. And yeah, I did a whole bunch of stuff that I kind of had never done before in training, and I felt like everything was very intentional and very specific as far as the workouts went. And yeah, I just stuck to his plan like pretty much to a T. Every single workout he would give me, I would just do as prescribed. I didn't deviate from the plan or anything. And I think in his write up recap about my training block, I don't know if you ended up reading that, but he thought it was best to approach Badwater as more of like a build for CCC rather than like a traditional Badwater build, just because I was coming into it having been running so much volume in the build to Cocodona that he kind of just took this huge aerobic engine that I had and just fine tuned little aspects to for Badwater.
I guess that makes sense, right? Like as runners, like, we come in with fitness and then we just kind of like fine tune the margins to specify to the race. It might even be a better question for like the crew. Like how much more of a challenge was it for your
Dude.
crew,
Yeah.
to take on Badwater than things that were more traditional?
I mean, it's very, I mean, the race says it's very rare for rookies to do really well at Badwater. It's one of those races that takes so much logistics and so much planning. And like, I think just having Mackenzie and Billy have crewed me at a lot of these, especially the 200s, it's like you really do have to be very dialed when it comes to all the planning and everything that comes with crewing a 200-mile race. So they're, very experienced, and we kind of had an idea of what we needed to do. But the Badwater is just so different, not having any aid stations. You're crewed out of a vehicle. You see your crew every 2 or 3 miles. And just the weird things that you have to do as far as like topical cooling and staying wet and ice. It was we were nervous that like, hey, this is very different, and it's honestly the most brutal race to crew ever, just because the crew has to be on the entire time and no one has time to sleep. Like they're up all night. You're driving at night. You're on this road. There's tons of rules of the race where you can't pull off and park in certain areas, and if you do, you might get a 15-minute time penalty or completely disqualified. So there's a huge rule book that you have to read and you have to study just to make sure you don't screw anything up.
It's wild. Yeah. I can imagine just like the anxious energy in the van, as you're making sure that you're not doing anything to jeopardize your runner's race. And so, yeah, big
Yeah.
big shout out to them and a lot of
Yeah,
respect for
and we kind
crewing
of
you.
just went into it knowing that we were going to have to figure it out and learn a lot of things on the fly. So, yeah, in the beginning, it was some of those transitions were a little uh, not super polished. So as the race went on, we definitely fell into a nice rhythm and a nice groove. But yeah, I wanted to not stop at all during the race, other than to like change my shoes and go to the bathroom. I wanted to be moving the entire race, because you'd think if you stop, I think we probably stopped 75 times, but I mean, there's other people who could easily stop 100 times. And if you're stopping for 30 seconds for each one of those stops, that's 50 extra minutes of time that you're missing out on. So, which would have been the difference between a really great finish and performance and a course record out there.
Right.
So I just wanted to go into it with the mindset of like, hey, every second counts. We're crewing on the move, so all of my bottle swaps, all of my ice swaps, and wetting myself down happened on the run. So we were moving the entire race, and I on the very first climb of the race, my legs felt really good, and I made a conscious decision that I'm going to run every single step of this race, and every climb, every single flat, every downhill, like I'm running this entire race, and I did. Yeah.
Awesome. So that was a decision that you made right there on the fly, kind of realizing that the legs were
Hmm.
feeling good. The race
Yeah.
starts obviously in the evening, right? It's a
Yeah.
night start, and so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so yeah, talk because this race is kind of unique in an ultra sense, because I think planning wise and looking back on historical splits, like there's much more consistency in it, like kind of like road marathon planning, because the
Hmm.
weather's typically the same. There's not
Yep.
variances too much, right? And then the course is identical, so there's not much that you can have variability wise. So yeah, how much did you give attention to like previous splits and key off of some of the other races that have gone on?
Yeah. So I have to credit all of that to Jack. I mean, I was just showing someone yesterday, like he outlined this race plan that's like, dude, it was probably 10 pages long of
Wow,
he was doing research and calculations of historic splits, and like he knew that all pretty much everyone at this race historically, everyone goes out too fast. Jack is a big believer of like the next big breakthrough in our sport is going to be pacing. There's so
interesting.
much more to learn about how you pace a race and how that affects your time at the end. And yeah, he predicted my splits like to a T. The entire race I just stuck to exactly his plan. Pretty much mile by mile. I had specific splits that I needed to be running. So yeah, I just stuck to that plan, and he kind of knew that, hey, the back 40 miles of the race is where people traditionally start to fade, and that's where people blow up. So our main objective going into it was like, hey, we're going to go out very conservative, and stick to these, very very easy splits in the beginning, very conservative, and make sure that we have legs and juice at the end to be able to continue to push. And especially on the final climb, like, I mean, all of the climbs, but especially on the final climb is where I really won all of the race, or all of the climbs of the race is where I won the race. But the lead changes all played out at the very end.
Right. I mean, talk to me about like the fueling and hydration strategy, because a race like this, like, I mean, it's punishing conditions. It's
Mhm.
full exposure. Obviously, we know the heat temperatures are crazy into the high triple digits and 115 plus, I think, throughout
Mhm.
the heat of the day. And so,
Yeah, it was 118 at the start when I got out of the car.
yeah, and I mean, being in Arizona, like I know what that weather feels like, and so it's like, yeah, you can't miss on nutrition because there's no recovering from a bonk. Like that pretty much takes out your race. You're kind of probably death marching it in, or losing out on all your competitive aspirations. So like, yeah, how hard was it to continually fuel to the levels that you previously are used to in a traditional like 100 miler?
Yeah, it's easy in the aspect that you have access to your crew so
Okay.
often. So I was seeing my crew every 20 something minutes in the beginning in the first night. And yeah, I had done a lot of experimenting and in my training leading up to the race. So I knew what my fluid loss was. I knew what my sodium loss was. I knew how many carbs per hour I can handle and wanted to push, which ended up being that was the one thing that I kind of had to deviate from the plan, because in the beginning I was just like taking on too much volume of fluid and carbs, and it ended up kind of messing with my stomach. I had a really miserable first night of that race. The first 40 miles I was dealing with like really bad stomach pain and sloshing of water. Like I almost kind of took in too much, and I think maybe that's because I didn't really train doing the topical cooling for so long. So I was expecting, fluid loss numbers of a run that I would do in hotter weather, but without the topical cooling. So yeah, I actually kind of overdid it. And there was a long stretch where I had to back way off my nutrition, back off my fluids, and then let my stomach kind of settle itself out, and then try to, get back on track and get back on plan, which was a little bit tricky and difficult. I feel like every time I was, eating to try to get back on schedule, it would, flare my stomach up. So, yeah, the race didn't exactly go as planned. I mean, if you look at my splits, they definitely showed a perfect plan or execution. But as far as like the fueling and stuff goes, like I was very uncomfortable and in a lot of discomfort and pain for that first 40 miles. Like, it was one of the most miserable nights of racing I've ever had.
So were you getting in like 90 grams of carbs, or were you trying to target that same kind of like,
Yeah,
range that we hear is common?
I had, in training, I had been doing 120, which
Wow.
a lot of time felt super comfortable for me. I mean, I have a really strong stomach, so being able to push, high carbohydrates is not super difficult for me. But I think attempting that number in the brutal heat, it's like heat causes everything to go wacky. Like nothing that you do in training is going to play out the same on race day, especially in that heat. So I think that was just like maybe a miscalculation. I was just too aggressive with how much fluid and how much carbohydrates that I needed, and yeah, I ended up paying for it a little bit in the beginning. But yeah, was doing 120, and then it was too much. I took an hour break, and then I was trying to get back to like 60 grams of carbs per hour. And then that was kind of messing me up. So I was like going back and forth on and off. And then finally, once I started the first climb and started pushing the effort a little bit, I think my stomach was able to like process everything that I was putting in it. So I felt really good on all of the climbs, especially the first one. Like that was my first little glimpse of hope in the race. Cause at the beginning, I let 10 people just like run away from me just because I was like, hey, I'm going to stick to my plan. And there's all these people passing me, and I'm seeing their little blinking lights just heading off into the distance. And I'm like, shit, dude, am I letting this race am I going to let this race run away from me? Like, am I going to be able to catch these people? And I just had faith that Jack's plan was going to work, and I was going to catch some of those people at the very end, which is exactly what happened. So, yeah, it was difficult and it was tricky as far as the fueling and hydration went. And once you start bouncing around and skipping and you know, halving your carbohydrates and then like not really knowing exactly how much you're taking in, it's like, okay, I don't know what my average carbs per hour are now. It's like maybe I'm, I think in total towards the end, I eventually did end up getting back on track for my fueling. But I think if I were to guess what my average was for the entire race, it was probably somewhere in like the 70 to 90 gram range.
Right. So, I mean, that's also a point of this race is like it's kind of like those like 24-hour races on a track where like Zach Bitter talks about, like you have access to a lot of information, which can be both good and negative. And so, yeah, was it something where like you were feeling kind of a bit overwhelmed by the amount of information that you were getting, and eventually you had to just ease back and just let me go by feel
Yeah.
and get my body back on course?
It took everything in me to just be patient and
Yeah.
let all of these people just drop me. And yeah, that was one of the most difficult things was to just like, I'm usually, racing at the front, racing with passion and emotion, and to sit back and consciously let that happen was really difficult to do. Um and yeah, I mean, luckily it ended up working out, but there was a lot of uncertainty, like, hey, is this too conservative? Like, even if something happens to me, like, and even coming into the final climb, I was like, I don't know if I have juice left in my legs to finish off this climb. Like, am I going to catch this guy? So, that was definitely one of the toughest aspects of the race, was just like letting those people go. And what was the other part of your question that you asked me?
Oh, we were just talking about access to information, like,
Yeah.
how
Oh,
hard
yeah,
was
yeah,
it for
yeah,
you
yeah.
to like just kind of turn off the noise maybe and just be like, stop checking in with me. I'm going to figure this out on the fly.
Yeah, and so having that happen in the beginning, just like getting in my head about these people are just running away from it with me, I told my crew, I was like, "Hey, I don't want to know I don't want to know what place I'm in. I don't want to know how far people are ahead of me. I don't want any information other than what exactly am I supposed to be doing right now to just stick to the plan." And that was a mantra that I was repeating in my head over and over and over, was like, be patient, stick to the plan, be patient, stick to the plan. And that's just exactly what I did. And luckily, Jack's, brilliant enough that he predicted the race, what was going to happen, like literally to the T, at like what specific miles, like all of these passes were going to happen and where I was going to catch people, and different runners' histories at the race. Like, hey, this guy, he always goes out too fast. Last year, he faded on, this section. He's probably going to be walking on the climb, the final climb. And like, that's like literally what happened. So, yeah, it was, I did get in my head a bit and didn't want to get overwhelmed by or get dejected. Like, I think Tomas was 40 minutes ahead of me at one point of the race, and if my crew were to have told me that, like, how much energy would that have drained from me, or like how much wind out of my sail would that have caused? I don't know, but I think it was definitely the smart move to just like stick to my own run my own race, stick to my plan, and just have faith that we were going to be able to do what we were planning.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine that like, momentum started building though as the race continued on. It did from like a spectator's perspective. Like I can remember refreshing the tracker and like being, there he is, he's in the top 5 now. It seems like he's closing. Seems like, some people are falling back, and, it was really fun to follow along all day, in that old school kind of way where like you're getting the tracker
Yeah,
updates and things from social media. Um, in fact, me and my buddy were going back and forth on text message, just like, there he is, he's got another place off. And did you kind of feel that momentum build? And like, it's kind of like the same story that we talked about at Moab, where like you're kind of chasing down, you're going back and forth with Harry, and then you kind of get the sense that like you're going to do this. And so, yeah, is that kind of like a powerful place to be where you're the hunter?
for sure. I mean, the first night I was like really dejected in my head that the race already wasn't going my way and I was having issues. And I'm like, God damn it. Like, is this going to be another race where it just like doesn't go my way? And I have all these issues that cause me to go way slower than what I know I'm capable of. And it was the climb, the first long, there's there's three climbs at Badwater. It's the climb out of Stovepipe Wells, the climb out of Panamint Valley, and then the climb out of Lone Pine to the finish. And on that very first climb, I got a huge boost of confidence. One, because my stomach just miraculously started to feel better once I started pushing the effort, and my stomach was processing just all of the stuff I was putting in it. And then that was when I first started passing people. So I think that climb, which is 10 or 15 miles, about 4 or 5,000 feet of vertical gain. I think I passed 5, 6, maybe even 7 people on that very first climb. So after that, I was like, okay, I'm actually still in this race, even though I had like just a really shitty night. And that was kind of the first little glimpse of hope that like, okay, I'm actually racing here. And it was kind of the same story for the entire rest of the race. Like Carmen Perez, the woman who she finished second overall, new women's course record, broke the previous men's course record by a huge margin. And me and her were going back and forth and battling the entire race. And she was actually passing me and dropping me on all the flats and downhills. Like she was just running better on those sections. But every single climb, I really excelled. And she would get some ground on me on the flatter downhill sections. And as soon as we would start a climb, I would just pass her and drop her, which is really what won the race for me. But me and her were leapfrogging from mile 45 onto pretty much the very end of the race. And she definitely pushed me to give everything that I had. And I don't know if the course record would have been possible if I wasn't battling with her just the entire race.
So early on, did you in like the race strategy planning, like did you anticipate the hills from your trail background were going to be an area of strength to excel on, and like were you mentally looking forward to each hill so that you saw them as opportunities to gain on your competitors?
I know my background in trail and running mountains and stuff. I knew that's probably that, and the heat acclimation. Like I was probably more heat trained than anyone in the entire field. So that in combination with all the vert training that I did, I mean, Badwater, you think like, oh, it's like pretty flat and runnable for 135 miles, but you don't realize that you cross essentially you climb 3 mountain ranges, and there is a lot more difficulty in those climbs than I think a lot of people plan for. So I think just like me unknowingly and just following Jack's plan, like just the build being more of a traditional build for, let's say, a mountainous race like CCC, like I really did a ton of vert training, a ton of training on trail still, and that definitely and like doing like every time I was on one of those climbs, I'm like, oh, this just feels like these incline, treadmill workouts that I've been doing. And my legs just felt so strong. And I was like, okay, I definitely did what I needed to do in training to prepare myself for, one of the more difficult, maybe overlooked aspects of the race, which is the climbs. And that's absolutely where I really shine during the race.
That's awesome. As you were getting closer towards the end, like, yeah, it was kind of a top 3 that were quite congested for a period of time. And like, I know we talk about on podcast and racing, the gamesmanship in trail running where like you hide or turn off your headlamp. So like you don't give any sort of like motivation to the people following you. In this race, like are people turning their headlights off and they're parking so the car goes dark or?
Yeah, those are part of the rules of the race. Like when you pull off, you have to turn your headlights off and then turn your hazards on. So in the beginning, and you can see everyone. You can see how far everyone's wearing lights, and you have to have blinking lights, and some people have different colors. So I'm like seeing this green flashing light, which ended up being the leader, Thomas, and I was just watching him like just completely run away with it at the very, very start. But I didn't see him again until the very, very end, mile 125. And yeah, even in the final 30, 40 mile section, like it's daytime and you're on this very straight road, like as far as the eye could see. And like I was looking up in the distance and I didn't see him anywhere. And him and this other guy, around the halfway point of the race, were so far ahead. The race organization didn't even know that they were up there.
Wow.
I think a couple points they were posting on Instagram, like, oh, here's the leaders, Carmen and Max. And there were actually 2 other guys that were way out in front of them. So I think they were, 40 minutes ahead of us, which the race didn't I don't think, I mean, they're driving the course too, so they just probably didn't even see them as well. So there were two guys, and I didn't know any of this at the time just because I didn't want my crew to tell me anything about what place I was in or anything about the race. But yeah, there were two guys that went out super super quick, and I ended up catching one of them around the Darwin area, somehow 80 to 90, and then it was just me and Carmen going back and forth. And then it was the about a mile into the final climb when I finally passed Thomas.
Yeah, zoom into that. So you probably finally got him in your sights, right? You saw him, in the crosshairs, and you kind of knew that you were moving at a clip that was going to overcome him. What did that feel like emotionally, right? Like just all, like you said, like all the adversity you've had with Cocodona probably crossed your mind, and realizing that like this race was going to have a triumphant outcome, or maybe not. Like you still maybe question if maybe Carmen was going to close. Yeah, mentally, where were you at with like your emotions and kind of as you were closing in on that pass?
Dude, I was so emotionally and
I've seen the video.
drained.
Yeah, you were.
I just had no energy. I mean, even at the finish line, I was just like so cooked and fried. Like I couldn't really even take it in just because the effort was like so sustained and I had to dig so deep and try so hard with the entire race. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't until the very last turn when you do the switchback and I look down and I don't see anyone behind me. Like on that climb, I as soon as I passed Thomas, the leader, I was like, I'm not even going to look back. I'm running, every single step. And when I passed him, he was walking a climb, and I was just, dude, it was the most the lead change happened in like extreme slow motion. Like I see him up in the distance, but like it probably took 5 minutes for me to catch up to him and end up passing him. So the race was on, and it was a tight race from the very start to the very finish. And yeah, when I passed him, I didn't really, I mean, I knew I was in first, but I didn't really like let the emotion of like, holy shit, I'm gonna win Badwater come into my head. And I definitely wasn't thinking about like, oh, this is a triumphant comeback from the unfortunate end that I've had to Cocodona twice, which is the only race I've ever not been able to finish. There's somehow this misconception online that like I DNF every race that I do. I've seen comments from people like that, and I'm like, there's only one race I've ever not finished, which is funny. But yeah, it was. I just had nothing left in me that I didn't really even have any emotion of like, oh, this is it. Like I was so locked in. I think towards the final few hours, like I wasn't even saying words to my crew. Like I couldn't even muster up like any communication with them. It was like they would crew
Full
me and
catatonic. Yeah.
I would just be silent. Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, but that's the beauty of the sport, is that like that's, I think that's what we're always pursuing. Like guys like you and I, is just this whole stripped down, to our core, just super humble, right? Like even in a moment where you've accomplished something that nobody's ever done before in a time, as quick as you did, it's still just filled with humility and like, gratefulness for every competitor that went out there and laid it all on the line and pushed you to get the most out of yourself. And like, what's it like when you cross the finish line though, and like you start seeing your competitors? Like, what's the community atmosphere there like at Badwater when you finish up there?
Uh, it's honestly, it was kind of trippy. I mean, I'm just in this delirious, weird
I
state
bet.
where like I just wanted to sit down. And being at Whitney Portal, like it's kind of a small little area. I mean, there's not a huge crowd. I mean, there were people there, but it's like all just people from the race. And it's I mean, in almost all of these races other than like Western States or UTMB, like the finish line is kind of uneventful. It's like not as exciting as maybe you picture or plan in your head. But I was just really stoked to just see Mackenzie and Billy and Tyler Wolter and Cole Becker, my filmmakers who were in the car documenting the race. And yeah, I was just like so stoked to be done. I've never tried so hard or dug so deep in a race that I was just like absolutely just drained.
Yeah,
I
I'd
was
imagine
just
most people, immediately start taking care of themselves, because like just the triage necessary after what you do in your body, once your body realizes like it's done, it doesn't have to keep moving forward. Like systems probably start shutting down. And you start feeling
yeah.
pretty shitty from the effort
I
you just.
sat down and I started shivering immediately and I needed a
Oh,
blanket. And yeah, it was brutal.
yeah. So I just want to take a minute here, because like we educated the audience a little bit on the history of Badwater, but like really like I want to make sure that like people understand exactly what you just accomplished in terms and in concept of like who's ran this race before. Like, Harvey Lewis has won it, who we all know is a legend within the backyard space. Ashley Paulson, has ran the race and
100
and
mile
won it.
war. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, she's ran in 100 miles in 12:19, right? So you're talking about, again, I'm just building the pedigree of the people who have competed at this race.
Got
Um,
Jared.
Ishikawa. That's a IAU 24-hour champion who's run 124 miles, Spartathlon champion, Badwater champion, Pete Kostelnick, who's, coast to coast, FKT holder, Badwater champion. You're right. I mean, Pam Reed, who's a legend in the sport. Scott Jurek, ran the race twice in his prime, and we all know what he's done at Western States. Like, this is the company of people that have competed there, and you've ran the race faster. I know the course kind of changed in terms of like start times and things like that over the years, but like it is what it is. And like, I don't think a lot of people are going to really contextualize this with the amount of, I think respect is the right word to use that it deserves. This isn't a race like King of Moab, like what you accomplish your Badwater is on levels exponentially better, in my opinion, from a performance standpoint than anything you've done. Dude, there's this one dude here, Marshall Ulrich. I don't know if you're familiar with him and what his lore and legacy is, but this dude was a four-time champ at Badwater. He's an OG course record holder when they went all the way up to the summit. What this dude also did, like he's just sick in the mind. Like this is like back in the early days. He did a quad Badwater crossing. So he did 4 times the course, 586 miles. He also did a self-supported solo trek. So he pulled a 200-pound supply cart with all of the medical and aid that he needed. And he's also the only one to ever trek around the perimeter of Death Valley, 425 miles in 16 and a half days. Like, these are the types of people that have competed at this race. And you're the fucking course record holder, Max. Like, has it sunk in just, what you accomplished and the pedigree of contenders that have lined up there?
Yeah, I felt it. And especially, online, like just seeing how many people were posting about it and reporting on it, it was, way greater of a accomplishment and impact that it had on the community than, say, my Moab performance. I mean, even at Moab, I had so many issues and problems and ran so slow that I was like, hey, I left like 9 or 10 hours out on the table. So knowing that this was so much more of a executed and harder effort, and like I don't know if there was anything else for me to give out there at Badwater. Like I think that maybe I do the race 10 times and that still might be the best performance or execution that I would have been able to put out. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm a ride or die fan of yours. And like, I was pumped when you pulled it off in the fashion that you did, and then only appreciated it more as I started to research, just the quality of what Badwater has represented over the decades. And I think it's pretty like, I think it makes sense that you did this at Badwater because like, I think one of the early campaigns for Satisfy was Death Valley. Like, do you remember the campaign where they, right?
Yeah.
Like were you part of that one when it was the Death Valley campaign or no?
No, it was
Okay.
I forget who it was, but I wasn't on that campaign.
Okay. My bad. I thought that for whatever reason I always had you correlated with that one and thought like this was a perfect, coming home for you and the brand. But
Yeah,
I know Satisfy
it
put a
was
lot of
definitely
effort.
it was definitely a huge moment for me and the brand, just
Yeah.
having, like, I was kind of a big part of the development of the Heat Crush, all the Heat Crush product and that product line. And obviously all the content in the campaign was me and shot around me. So it was a cool full circle kind of moment for the brand that, like, hey, conceptually, like, this capsule started with me. I helped test all the prototypes. Then, we shoot the campaign earlier this year when I was in Chile and Bolivia, and the Heat Crush video that came out, which is like had a very Death Valley Badwater vibe. And then me then wearing all of the product during the race at Badwater, and then, the finish and setting the course record, like wearing the product and showing that, like, hey, this is tested and it really works and it performs in the toughest the toughest environments in the world and like did exactly what it's supposed to was I thought a really cool and huge moment for me, and I think probably for the brand as well.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to was just how all in Satisfy was behind you in support of developing like yeah a campaign and a gear list that was gonna set you up for success at Badwater. Yeah, dude, that 11-minute film where it's just like tracking on you coming up the road was pretty
Right.
epic. You know, like that was on brand for like the early days of Satisfy that I
Yeah.
connected with. So it was good to see that come back. But like, yeah, I mean, talk about it. Like, what was the technology behind some of the gear? Like, yeah, how was it when it was actually put to the test for 21 hours?
Yeah, so the fabric of the heat crush is just where all the technology is. It's a super fast cooling fabric or fast drying fabric, which just having water evaporate off your skin is what causes the topical cooling. And yeah, I forget what the name of the fabric is specifically, but it's like some technical Japanese fabric, I believe, and yeah, it was trippy for when I was first testing out the product. Like you put it on, you like actually like the fabric on your skin like does have almost this like weird cooling sensation. I almost can't even
Like a
describe
menthol
it.
almost?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
kind of, but yeah, it's something that I had never felt before, and then like doing all my training with it, especially when you get it wet, that's where it really activates like the cooling properties, and like just having the water be able to sit in the fabric and cling to your skin and then evaporate, like that's what causes the cooling. So yeah, having like the the fabric on my arms with the arm sleeves and then the shirt and then the shorts that had the fabric in it too really aided in all the topical cooling. And Satisfy actually made me this really cool prototype vest that was like an ice vest that I had. There's all these pockets all over it. I think Molly actually wore it at Western States, but yeah, I had that thing loaded up at with ice during the night, and yeah, the gear and technology for all of that product was like, I mean, super groundbreaking and revolutionary. And you're starting to see it with a lot of brands that are putting out these really technical, useful, innovative fabrics and products. Like Nike's, has the radical airflow. I think Heat Crush is Satisfy's version of a hot weather technical uh, technology and fabric. And then I think even Raid has like a cooling shirt that's similar. East Peak, I mean, they have a shirt that has like ice pockets and cooling in it. So yeah, I think there's a huge push for being able to develop products where it can really aid and help people in hot weather. Yeah.
yeah, and I can vouch for Satisfy. I mean, that's typically what I like to race my ultras in, especially when I know that I'm going to be topical cooling for, the entire event. Because one of the hidden dangers with topical cooling is chafing, because your skin's obviously getting soft from constantly being wet, and like any fabric that's got some abrasion components to it or seams can be real problematic. And like, yeah, I've never had an issue with chafing, and so yeah, just a huge shout out to like Satisfy and all of the products that they make that are really conducive to really all weather, but specifically hot weather, at least for the type of environments I'm running in. So, well, Bud, I mean, you're one for one. You were recently just married, and so as a married man, like you're knocking it out of the park already. So congratulations on that. Like, I know
Shout
you,
out McKenzie, crew chief
yeah,
extraordinaire. Just
yeah, you've got
the Badwater is like more of a team race than probably any other race in the
right.
world.
It's
It
got to
it
feel almost like a Ragnar or relay race. Just they're not
Yeah,
running, but they're
totally.
just exerting as much
Mhm.
energy
Like
almost.
it takes so much effort, and they have to be so on for the entire race. It was like I honestly could not have done it without them. Like there's absolutely no way.
Right. So what do you got plans next, man? You're going to go to Europe for the fall, or yeah,
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
I mean, it sounds like recovery's going, better than expected or as expected.
yeah. I
Nothing.
ran my first little short run here yesterday. I definitely my legs. I wasn't expecting my legs to still feel as trash as they were. Like I'm still carrying a lot of fatigue, but I should be easing back into training through this week, and then heading out to Paris, and then I'll be in Chamonix for UTMB week, and then Mackenzie and I have just been so busy with the prep and planning for this race and running the race that we haven't gone on our honeymoon yet. So after we leave Chamonix, we're going to Spain for our honeymoon, and then after that, I come home and I mean, through that whole trip, I'll be training and I'll get home and I'll continue training, and I'm running a Kodiak 100 in October. So that's the next big challenge on the agenda. And yeah, I'm just easing right back into it.
Awesome, man. Are we gonna get a documentary, a film out for Badwater,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
everyone?
it'll be coming. These things take a long time.
Yeah.
I was getting messages like 10 minutes after I finished, and they're like, "Hey, is the film ready yet?" And I'm like, "Dude, I still got my shoes on, man. Like, what are you talking about?" So yeah, we're kind of targeting like towards the end of the year. It could even be the beginning of next year. Just with how I want to roll out the film and logistics and designing merch and all of those things, doing premieres. It it'll be big. Definitely bigger than King of Moab. So I really want to do it right and take my time. And you know, we're gonna spend quite a bit of time of editing the film and getting it scored and getting it colored and the mix. I mean, there's all these like processes that a lot of people don't realize. You can't just like film something, upload it onto the computer, and then the film is done. We really want to do this right and do it very intentional and make a very quality piece of content for everyone, which is something I just like absolutely love doing. So yeah, Tyler Walter and Cole Becker. They're the filmmakers. They're going to be working their ass off over the next handful of months to try to get this thing out. Just keep an eye out on social media. There will be a trailer dropping at some point. And we'll start teasing the film as soon as we start working our way through it. But it is coming. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
I'm not,
I know we're all
I'm
gonna
not
look
gonna
forward to it.
I'm not gonna release the name of it, but
No.
it's gonna be cool.
Sick, dude. Well, I appreciate you hopping on, man. I can't
Hey,
thank you
thanks,
enough
man.
for the support, man. You've been
Of course.
a champion of mine, of the podcast, and we've become, real genuine friends. And so sincerely appreciate you coming on. Congrats on
No,
on the victory, man.
thank you, and I appreciate that everything you do. I feel like you've been one of my biggest cheerleaders over the years. I love your takes. I love how honest and insightful you are, and God, how much research you do for these conversations. So yeah, keep killing it, and honored to be on your podcast, and always good getting to hang with you and go for a run with you. I know a couple months ago, right before Badwater, we went on a little jog in Newport. So it was fun hanging, and yeah, I was like, hopefully we can do a podcast after Badwater. Hopefully it goes well, and here we are.
Here we are, man. Awesome,
Yeah.
dude. Well, you killed it, dude. Have a good one. Have
Thank
a
you.
good rest of the year, man.
Thank
We'll
you.
catch up
Peace, brother.
later.